This is a true story. Explorer Jack was rock climbing in a canyon when he accidentally fell. During the fall, his right hand happened to be trapped by a boulder. This sudden accident filled Jack with despair. Seeing himself trapped at the bottom of the long, narrow valley, Jack could only desperately try to pull himself out. But his arm was stuck even tighter. He had to endure the excruciating pain and try to move the boulder with his left hand. Exhausting all his strength, the boulder remained motionless. Then, he tried kicking it with his feet, pushing it with his shoulders, and ramming it with the momentum of his body, trying every possible method. But the boulder was still firmly fixed in place. He was now too exhausted and his ribs were about to be crushed. Waves of pain kept coming. Jack shouted loudly for help, but the vast canyon was deserted. With no hope of rescue, Jack had to find a way to save himself. He began to take stock of the tools in his bag, including a climbing rope, a DV camera, a watch, a folding knife, and half a bottle of water. It seemed that the knife was the most useful. He then started using the knife to chip away at the rock wall. He continued for several hours, but only chipped off some insignificant rock fragments. Then, in an unguarded moment, his knife fell into a lower crevice. Jack hurriedly bent down to pick it up, but his body movement was restricted. He had to take off his sock, find a branch, and then use his toes to clamp it, slowly hooking the knife. Finally, he managed to retrieve the knife, but he found that the blade had become dull, so he started sharpening it. From daybreak to late at night, Jack's mouth was parched. He carefully unscrewed the cap and then took a small sip of water. His legs, having stood for a long time, were about to give way. He wanted to use something to rest, so he took out the climbing rope and kept throwing it upwards. After dozens of attempts, the rope finally caught on a rock protrusion. Then he tied the other end around his waist to distribute the weight of his body.